welcome to Chapter 3, Quarantary. Nope, Common Quarantary. Hello, I'm Kerry Shawcross, and I am the director and co-writer for this episode.
My name is Miles Luna. I was a co-writer on this episode, and boy howdy, what a fun episode it was. This was such a blast to work on. It was also when we were worried about page length-wise.
Oh yeah, it actually turned out amazing for that.
This was one of those situations where I had to be like, hey, I swear to God, this is the page count, but like all of this description is being hyper-specific, but this whole page will take 5 seconds. Like, it was one of those, which like sometimes you can't trust us when we say it, but this time you could.
Hey, Final Draft, can we talk for a second?
Hey, Final Draft, hey, what's your deal, dog?
Hey, Final Draft, why is it that if I delete half of a page, you only move everything back up like a fifth of a page? Or like an eighth of a page? What's up with that?
Hey, so here's the shopping montage.
Okay.
Okay, so we a big part of the lead up to this season, you know, we always like to have something to hype up. And one of the big things that was exciting for us, that we thought would be exciting for fans, is showing off the new outfits.
Yeah.
And then I don't know where we saw it on the subreddit, on Tumblr, but everyone was positive
there
was going to be a shopping montage this season, and I do not know where people think they got that like fact from.
Yeah, it's one thing if like I can see the kind of thing where maybe like a voice actor actress said like, oh, they would love to see this, and then somebody like, you know, telephone gamed it to it's gonna happen, but like people were sure that there was gonna be one.
Even after this episode, people were like, "Huh, I really thought they were gonna get the new outfits in the shopping montage, but I guess we'll see what they buy later." I was like, "What?
Like, no."
But man, this was such a cool moment.
It was again, I'm just going back to I can't remember whose idea it was, so this time I'll say it was yours. But yeah, doing this callback to their landing strategies, and seeing like, you know, using that as A, just cool action, but B, how far they've come. And I think, you know, this was something we kind of talk about. Something I see us talking about through these commentaries is we didn't want, you know, we don't want the show to become a bummer. You know, we're obviously like growing up with the show, and we're dealing with some more, you know, call it world-ending topics, and getting some darker things, but we want to have fun too. And it's funny when Jeff first sent me this song, he was like, "Hey, this is probably too much," and I listened to it, and like I went back and forth a little bit, and in the end I was just like, "No, I think this is actually like everything. Like this is exactly what we need."
God, it was so funny too. We all thought everyone was gonna love Jaune's hair, and then people immediately hated it, which is very par for the course for Jaune's life experiences. Yeah, some people came around to it.
I understand what they're saying.
So funny.
I think it's nice.
Big change.
It was a big thing for you. I think you wanted to see him grow up. And
yeah,
it was a good way to do it.
Definitely, that was a big thing. This is actually a great segue into talking about the Aesops, because we wanted our kids to start looking and acting and learning from professional huntsmen. And the idea originally came when we were brainstorming some stuff for volume 7. Oh my god, we're working on 9 right now. So
yeah, just to give some context, we're doing the commentary for 7. We are in production on 8 and are currently outlining 9. So we're a little scattered right now.
But originally I pitched this idea of making Atlas a little reminiscent of the Beacon days, in that you know, as fans have kind of called out and we've been aware of, like, we don't often get a chance to see professional huntsmen. We're constantly spending time with our student-age characters, and like the couple of adult friends they have. And so there was this idea of like, well, what if when they get to Atlas, because we wanted them to get some weapon upgrades, some outfit upgrades, and then of course we really wanted them to start getting stronger and stronger, of like, what if they have some Atlas Academy professors that teach them? And then that kind of evolved into, well, maybe they're some sort of like mentors, or what is this? And then ultimately, as we kept throwing ideas around, it was this idea of, what if these are Atlas's best of the best? Like the Team RWBY of Atlas, the thing that like these kids should aspire to be like and learn from. And just that idea of reconnecting to the Beacon days of having a teacher and a student, like, blew up into this huge part of the story, which was really, really fun.
Well, again, added these characters that I think were both awesome on their own, but then also led to having kind of like foils or mirrors of multiple of our main characters, and let us kind of, help move their story along too. One of my favorite things about it too is I saw a lot of comments that I think were frustrated that there's 5 people in the team and not 4, and that they didn't have a color name, and that was incredibly intentional. We want to do that as kind of, we're hoping right off the bat it would show like, oh, Ironwood doesn't care about Oz's rules. He's not there right now. He wants an efficient team.
Yeah. And we get a little more into that in the next episode. I also got to give a massive shout out to Eddie Rivas, who coined the term Aesops. All the characters on the Ace Operatives are inspired by Aesop's fables. And when he dropped that, holy cow. Oh, it was like confetti. We just conjured confetti.
It was one of those things where I think he brought it up as like, so I'm only half joking, and it's like, no, you're none joking. We're doing this.
Man, yeah, we had to cut a lot of stuff out of this episode. I think we talked a little bit about it later in 6, so I won't get too deep into it now. But there was a bunch of things that we kind of still needed to touch on from the previous volume. Obviously, Ying and Blake had a really traumatic event that they went through together.
Yeah.
That, we had this idea that SDC, brands and labels a lot of their cargo and stuff. And this idea that, although, we never say it, so I guess technically it's not canon or whatever, but we had this idea that, Adam, as a terrible person as he was, when he was younger, potentially got into an argument with someone at an SDC place, and someone grabbed a brand and just let him have it, and that led to the injury that we saw on his face in Volume 6. And so we wanted to be very sure to plaster the SDC logo all over this area to really put that in the forefront of Blake's mind, and Yang is kind of the only person that notices. Set up a conversation for them later.
It's just definitely very sensitive to it right now, and also I like that we were able to, we knew we wanted to have this location of this mine, and it turned out to be the perfect place to bring up Ilya's parents as well, and kind of put those together.
It was really fun getting to bring the Geist back out. Was super cool, because the Geist has always been one of my favorite Grimm, and the forms that it can turn into. And then also the introduction of a new type of Grimm, the Sentinels. These guys were super fun. We want to think of a type of Grimm that can stay underground, not really have to deal with the cold environments. It's also fun as we continue to develop new Grimm. We like giving them like special attributes and stuff. They have this gross acidy spit.
I felt so bad after the animation got assigned out to everybody. Found out John Yang, one of the animators who worked on this fight, is like super not into bugs.
Oh no.
He powered through it, and he ended up being totally fine. But I was like, oh no, I don't want to do that.
There was another thing. This fight used to go on a hair longer, where we introduced I guess an alpha variant of the Sentinel.
Yes.
That ultimately we ended up having to cut for time, but I don't know. Maybe you'll see it in the future.
Maybe
who knows?
Maybe a little later. One other thing here too is we along with the new outfits, we want to give all the characters a little bit of an upgrade. So, some are bigger than others, and some are more support, some are more attack.
I don't think Weiss's changes at all.
Well, she doesn't need to. Because we actually had this conversation, and it was basically, well, Weiss's was perfect already, so she's good. Maybe she got like a higher grain dust. Nah, she didn't. It's fine though.
Ren's was one that we were really excited about. Not just the grappling, but also his projectile attacks have always just kind of felt like pea shooters. It's one of those things where it's like, it feels more like suppressing fire than it's actually doing damage. So giving him the ability to switch to these like heavy rounds, it feels so good. God, I always feel like Ren just has like the best upgrades.
Yeah. Also, shout out to his father's dagger on his arm.
I love that little touch.
Subsonic.
This was also, I think, the episode where we kind of reestablished, like, because in the early years we never did a super great job of world building. Like, we were figuring out how to tell stories while we were telling stories.
We had it figured out, but we did not do a good job of communicating that.
Oh god, we did such a bad job.
Which has turned into people saying that we've retconned things, and it's just like, like I can't even be mad because I'm sure that is what it looks like, but it's just I'm just sitting here on my side of the computer being like, no, we just did a bad job early, but that doesn't mean it was a bad job in total.
This idea of there kind of being like, there are some types of semblances, like Kerry witnesses, like,
right.
I've seen different types of speed semblances, and yours is different. Oh, I love this moment. So, Crow and Clover were a super interesting couple of characters that we had this volume. For a while, Crow has been this loner, too cool for school, Shadow the Hedgehog guy that he best works alone. And we wanted to try and start breaking him of that and really getting him to interact with people that aren't his nieces and their friends.
Right. And I think Volume 6 is a good step in kind of curbing his alcoholism, or trying, the start of that road. Right.
And so Clover, where he came in, it goes back to what we talked about in the first episode of really working to try and paint Atlas in a myriad of colors. Like, Ironwood seems a little untrustworthy, but then you have people like Penny and Winter who are on his side, and then you have this dude Clover who, even though he took them down in the first episode, is a total bro, and he's super nice. Like, we constantly refer to him as Captain America. He's like, got cheesy one-liners, will always look to make like luck or fortune puns. Like, he's an absolute goober.
The way we talked with the voice actor and a lot of the animators and storyboard artists working with him was just that, like, he constantly feels like he is in an action movie because things just go right for him. So he doesn't need to look where he's about to jump. So he can do these like things to kind of like boost morale and get people, excited for him.
It ultimately leads to someone who becomes too self-reliant on their semblance, and then that can lead to there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, and he rides that line a lot, and in the end I think ultimately gets a little too arrogant and overconfident in the idea that things will just go his way. But at the start...
Okay, sorry.
Oh my gosh, everybody's got a taste of every Zoom call that we're in nowadays. But this idea that we have this person that is the kind of person Crow always wanted to be, the kind of person that everybody can rely on, always wants him around, things work out when he's there. And so at the beginning of their friendship, we had this idea that, like, at first, Crow doesn't really like Crow doesn't really like Clover and finds him kind of, like, irritating, rolls his eyes at him, doesn't want to admit. Yeah, like, we have the moment where he trips after talking about how he works better alone, and Clover catches him and immediately disproves Crow's point. And it's like, see, it's better to work with people. And but ultimately, like, the journey that they go on is Crow goes from kind of hating him to being envious of him to then ultimately trusting him and befriending him, only to have a tragic ending thanks to Tyrion, high emotions, and a lot of chaos.
This is your friendly reminder to please always watch the season before you watch the commentary.
Yeah, this was actually something we had a conversation about, where for a while myself and maybe a couple of the other writers weren't sure about this idea of Team RWBY not being involved in this big boss fight, but you were really adamant about just kind of letting them stand in awe and watching it, and I was worried that it wasn't going to work out, but in the end, I absolutely love it. We show off just how effective these guys are together. They don't need Team RWBY's help. They got this.
That's kind of, I wanted to, obviously I think there's merit to every idea, and it's not that this is like 100% right, but I really wanted to, I feel like we had a limited time to make sure the audience knew that the Aesops were worth everything that we were, saying that they were. And, it's always great to see the kids kick ass, but this kind of needed to be their moment to shine, the Aesops.
Yeah. It also, it serves as a starting point in terms of, like, skill check. At the beginning of the volume, our kids are in awe at the skill of the Aesops, and by the end of it, after everything they've been through, the training they've done together, the missions they've been on, they are able to hold their own against the Aesops, and that, it's always kind of nice to show a starting point and ending point, the differences between the two.
I think as well,
the best character in the show.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Please go ahead.
I know. I love everything Eric did for social for his character. Shout out to Eric Bedore. I feel like that kind of plays in the conversation we had in chapter 1 as well, of just like wanting to find this flow, and we really wanted it. I felt like it was so clear that Atlas was going to be this like harder arc for everybody, that we wanted these first episodes to really make you feel like, okay, maybe things are going to work out okay.
Hey,
then, speaking of which,
spoiler alert, people! If things are going really well by the end of Act 2, Act 3 is gonna be a bummer.
Yeah. Anyways.